Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the TakeOff. Today we're going to talk about one of the big issues in construction right now, and that is gender diversity and female participation in the construction industry. So obviously this is a big topic. It's something that we see a lot of promotion, a lot of advertising sort of consistently. We've got a number of big advocacies within the construction industry pushing this agenda, which is something that I believe is important that we look at and that we consider. Today we're going to go through some statistics that I've done a bit of research on, and we're also going to read an article that was recently written by Alison Mirams, the chair of Roberts Co. in Sydney. Alison is one of the flag bearers of the construction industry as a whole, not just for female participation. And she has come up with 9 different ideas that she believes will basically promote female participation in construction as well as close the gender pay gap. So it's an interesting conversation. In my opinion, it's something that men don't really want to talk about that often. I also kind of think men don't really care much about it. And that's something that I'm bringing this up to talk about because I believe that we should care about it a bit more. And the reason I believe men, not that they maybe don't care about it, but they just generally don't think about it as much, obviously, as a woman would within the construction industry. So I've done a bit of research. And according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, women make up 13% of the construction workforce in Australia. 2% of those are in trades and 11% of those are in white-collar roles. So obviously, this is a minute number. 13% is obviously not good enough. I believe that the goal within the construction industry is to increase that to 25%. And that's by, some groups such as like NAWIC are promoting that. I had looked into the Australian target. So the target participation for females in construction industry in Australia is 15% by 2030. And that has been set by the Australian government in 2022 as part of the National Construction Industry Strategy. So from going from 13% to 15% is obviously maybe not the most sort of ambitious target. 25% overall is certainly nearly double, which is obviously far more ambitious. I'm going to talk about some of my ideas, some of my thoughts. I do feel like men, when I say that men probably don't think about it as much, I believe that's one thing, but I also feel like men are probably a little bit afraid to talk about it at the same time. We are in a culture these days where whether you can say misplace one word here, one word there, and you might get yourself in a spot of bother, in trouble. And I'm not saying that that's across the board and people are precious or anything like that, but at the same time, I do feel like men just kind of steer away from the topic and will give it a thumbs up and give it a like when it's, Women in Construction Week or something like that. But realistically, there's not much done around that from a conversation point of view of what's fair, what's not fair, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. And to be honest, I'm just trying to get the conversation started from a male point of view, from a guy working in the construction industry for the last 10 years. I'm at a point where me and my wife want to potentially have kids in the future. So we're, going through some of the thoughts and processes with regards to maternity leave and that sort of thing. So, I mean, this is a constantly evolving topic, and I think that we've got to be out there and we've got to talk about it. So, last week, Alison Mirams, who, as I mentioned, is the chief executive chairman of Tier 1 construction company Roberts Co. And previously chief executive, wrote an article in the Australian Financial Review. So I'm just going to read out that article, and from each point, I'm just going to provide my analysis of that point, if that makes sense. So here is the article. A quarter of the 20 biggest companies in Australia are now run by women. So that's 25%. And the chances of that number increasing looks more promising than ever before. The number is up from 15% a year ago as Vicky Brady took over at Telstra, Leah Weckert at Coles, and Fortescue Metals appointed another female CEO, Fiona Hick. The number of female bosses in the top 50 has doubled in the same period to 8. This is happening because more women are getting the frontline management and profit and loss experience that qualifies them to run the whole show, and because boards see the business benefits of having diversity at the top. It is progress, albeit slow, and with a long way to go across the ASX 200, only 10.5% of chief executives are women. How do we keep widening the pipeline to the top? Here are 9 practical things that companies can do, women can do, and men can do to help women rise through the ranks. So number 1, sponsor a woman. My career has been built by 2 amazing men who sponsored my career. I've never asked for a promotion. I'm fortunate they have been offered to me. My first sponsor took me under his wing when I was only 22 years old, showing you are never too young to be sponsored. I believe this is a really good idea. And to be honest, I believe men who are in their sort of at a senior level should take it upon themselves to be a guide and be a mentor to others especially females within the industry. I look at my closest female, and that is my wife, and she had mentors throughout her career in property, and she always talks about them extremely positively, and how good that they were, and how an individual took give her guidance and took her under her wing as such, and also protected her from others in the industry who may not have had the best intentions, and steered her in the right direction and helped grow her career. And truthfully, I believe it's something that we should do. If we look at the participation rate of females in the industry from a white collar point of view, only 11% of the industry is female. And so you could look at that as obviously as a significant minority. And I believe just as human beings, we should always be looking out for minorities and helping them, whether it's from a female point of view, or whether you're someone who's come into Australia who doesn't necessarily know the culture, know the language, know the industry as much, as just being a good human would be putting, arm around them in a way, and putting them and giving guidance and showing direction and helping their career develop over time. And I genuinely think that from my point of view as a business owner, I'm always on the lookout for mentors. I want to learn from others. I want to learn from other people's mistakes. I want to know the quickest way to get to somewhere, without having to, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever it might be. I'm always looking to progress, always looking to learn. And I think, if you're a female in the industry, having a mentor, I believe you would probably benefit from a female mentor as well as a male mentor. So, sponsoring a woman, number 1, I think is a great idea. Number 2, set pay bands in your organization and employ into them. Regardless of existing salaries, don't ask women what they earn and pay them a small increase to join your firm. Employ into pay bands, and you will fix the gender pay gap instantly. 25% of the women we employed in our company needed their salaries fixed, some by up to an astounding 40%. No man's salary needed to be fixed. So again, what does that say? That says that, if there was 40% of female salaries needed to be fixed, then there was someone who was offering those salaries that looked at, the female and said, if you're a female project engineer, you're getting paid 100K. We've got a male project engineer and he's getting paid 120, 130K. Of course that isn't right. And I'd be having questions about the people who were offering those salaries. However, although it is a good idea and it does help fix the gender pay gap, my opinion is that there is a potential that it stunts your ability to attract talent from an overall point of view. So whether you're looking for the best people, generally you have to be a little bit fluid in terms of the salaries that you offer. I mean, I recruit for tier 1 organizations, tier 2 organizations, and most of them do have salary bandings. But at the same time, there usually is like a percentage, a plus percentage or a minus percentage of what they're allowed to go to. I just think by having a super stringent salary pay bracket, that it can stunt the amount of talent or the best talent that you acquire into the organization. You know, like a famous one is usually any council that you know, if it's Brisbane City Council, is it Sydney, Auckland, wherever it might be. Usually speaking, the pay bandings is obviously in place for a reason, but it makes it quite complex to attract the best talent, and usually from that point of view, they do miss out on the best people. So I think you've got to have something like that in place, but you probably need to have a salary banding, say point A, which is 100 to 120k. But if you really need someone who's a really good candidate, you need to have, you know, a plus 10, 15, 20% that you can offer within that salary banding to attract the best people. Number 3, promote women before they go on maternity leave where appropriate. Don't make them ask on their return. Their confidence will be down. They will doubt themselves. They won't ask. And this is where women start to slide down the leadership ladder. Promoting before maternity leave will give you very dedicated employee on her return to work. So this is something I think is a great idea, because truthfully, like, I've seen it firsthand. Like, it is the anxiety and the confusion and not knowing what to do next from a female point of view, where obviously if there's a pregnancy, it's so difficult. And I completely agree with that. If you're good enough, if you are due to be getting a promotion, and that individual is pregnant and going to go on maternity, it is a fantastic idea to offer them a promotion beforehand. Because as Alison points out, I can just imagine, and I'm not going to say I know, but I can imagine that there is an element of, like, confidence is going to be low. There's going to be a lot of challenges from, you know, a point of view of how do we, you know, ingrain both work and family into our lives now. This is something different. So there's going to be complexities, going to be challenges. And again, I believe if you were to promote beforehand, then you're going to have someone coming back into the office who is just super excited to get back into the office. And it also probably, you know, there's probably an element of when a woman or a mother or a father goes on maternity or paternity, that things change, you know, subsequently after having a family. And so there's probably an element, if you were promoted beforehand, that you're going to more likely want to go back to work at the same time. Whereas sometimes people don't want to. People want a bit more flexibility. People want, you know, certain things or certain feelings change, and they actually don't want to go back to work. Sorry, my throat. So I believe it's a great idea. I believe that you know the individual coming back from maternity leave shouldn't be in a position where they have to start their career off again, or, you know, they start at a point, you know, say point C, and then all of a sudden they're having to go back to point B or point A because, you know, they've been away for the last, you know, 6 months or something like that. I think that's extremely unfair. And I believe it's something that is probably a bit of a no-brainer, and it's good that Alison's come out and said it. So another one is is number 4, is give women a pay rise as they return to work after maternity leave. I hear you say, but their technical skills haven't changed. Yes, their technical skills don't change, but their leadership skills do. They just spent a year at home on an intensive leadership course that you didn't need to pay for. Their emotional intelligence and their leadership skills grow exponentially. They enhance their skills needed to be an effective leader. While on maternity leave, they learn to lead with ability through disruption and changing environments, communicate more effectively in critical conversations, negotiate with confidence to maximize outcomes, adapt their leadership style to situation and context, and manage their time, energy, and stress levels. If those items sound familiar, they are from a university course Speaking from personal experience, I know my leadership skills and empathy grew once I walked in the shoes of a parent. So again, this might be a little bit hard for me to analyze and give true opinion on. However, because I'm not a parent. However, I think it's an interesting idea, although I'm not 100% convinced that you should just get a pay rise automatically once you've come back from maternity. I don't know whether that even fits into the salary bandings that we were talking about in point 2. I think it's enough potentially to have that promotion beforehand. If you've had that promotion beforehand, realistically speaking, you're probably going to be in a new salary banding at that point. Don't really believe that you should be getting a pay rise just automatically once you come back from maternity. And again, these are things that maybe as a man I shouldn't really be saying, but I think these are things that we just got to talk about from as a point of view of the construction industry. I don't believe in token gestures. I don't believe that you should just get this because you're this. I think that if that's the case, then there should be some KPIs put into place to say, well, we believe that you have went through a really strong leadership course over the last 6 to 9 months. Therefore, if you prove that that is the case from the point of view of reaching the certain KPIs within your transition period back into the office or under the project, we would be more than happy to increase your salary after a certain period of time or once those milestones have been hit. I just don't believe in getting a pay rise just off the bat, and that's just my opinion. Number 5, once promotions are done, split them by gender to make sure female promotions are occurring in the same proportion as the company participation rate. Bring women with you. Don't leave them behind accidentally. So from what I take, what Alison means by this is if in 1 year you've promoted 3 males, that you have to, or you should promote 3 females. Again, I don't believe that this is correct. Why? Because I believe that you should be promoted based on skill set, right? So if there's 3 females that have been promoted, are you going to then promote 3 males? I don't know. Again, is that what Alison means by this? I'm not 100% sure. I believe that you should be promoted based on what you're doing for the company, what you've done in the past, who you are as an individual, and also the potential of that individual. I've been promoted quite early in my career a couple of times, and that's because of what I was going to be in the future, not exactly what I was then. And I believe that you've got to show the reasons for that. So if you've got 3 guys who are being promoted for certain reasons, and you've got 3 women who are, have great track record, been amazing throughout the year, got lots of promise, fine, 100%, definitely. But I don't believe in just having a completely static and neutral. I understand what Alison means, because if 80 or 90% of the industry is a male, then there is generally going to be more promotions. But at the same time, probably this is a number game, really, isn't it? If there was 50% were female, then it would just naturally happen that 50% would be promoted from female and 50% would be promoted from male. So I just think that promote based on merit and promote based on the person. Don't believe in promoting just for the sake of promoting people. Number 6, when you decline an event, don't just decline it. Ask if you can send a senior female in your place. Give them the opportunity to sit in the room, to hear the messages, and to network. It might be an unimportant event to you, but it will be a great opportunity for a rising star. Again, I think this is a really, really good idea. It's a cracking idea. It's from the point of view of, if Alison's getting invited to an event, obviously maybe to do, a keynote or to attend, a talk or whatever it might be, or even if it's just a pure networking event, sending someone along in her place, especially a senior female, I think it's a super powerful statement. I think what that individual would feel from that is just such a sense of pride. From the point of view of a recruiter, I hear the reasons why men want to leave jobs every day, why females want to leave jobs every day. And there is a whole variety of different reasons. And then from the point of view of a recruiter, I'm always thinking of why should someone join this company? And if I've heard that, say, Alison would sort of identify a rising star in her team and let that person, take part in something that she should have been doing, I see that as being such a positive and attractive thing to do from a career point of view, from an acquisition point of view, from a talent acquisition point of view. And I think it's super exciting. I think that what the person would get from it, is just such a buzz and such a keenness to embed themselves in that company even further. It's not just you're here to do a job. It's someone has seen that how good you are and is going to really just throw their weight behind you and get you out there into the market, and they want your face to be seen out there. I think it's an incredible idea. Number 7, set targets and report into them. So everything we do in life, we set a target, and female participation is no different. What gets measured gets actioned. So again, this is interesting because I'm at the cold face of this from a talent point of view. So I have a constantly changing mind on this. Whether you set a target of how many females, and then you just get that, say it's 25% over the next 10 years or whatever it might be, and then companies are really just forced to get there. But at the same time, if you are a female in the industry and you maybe haven't been given the training or knowledge or expertise, and you've been given a job that maybe you're not ready for purely based on the fact that you're female, and then you go out on site and again it is 85% male, and they maybe see that you haven't had as much training, you haven't had as much expertise put into you or development put into you, it's kind of like throwing lamb into the wolves. And I don't know whether that's a benefit to females to do that. Again, there's an element of slight token gestures, but on the flip side, I have experienced how this could work from a different point of view. So in the north of Ireland, where I'm from, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the police force was predominantly Protestant, and I think by 85 or 90%. And there was a target to include more Catholics in the police force. And I think that was something like 40% by a certain time period. And so the police force of Northern Ireland, it was rebranded from the RUC to the PSNI. They wanted it to become more diverse and equal. And if you were a Protestant or if you were Catholic, you got the job more than you were a Protestant. Again, is that fair? Probably not. But what they were trying to do was to make it more equal and more fair overall. And they got there. And from a bird's eye view point of view, it seems to be a lot more fair. It seems to be a lot more equal. It seems to be, there isn't much corruption, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how a target has worked well. And again, that could be the same for female participation. It's just, I think that we've got to be conscious of it. I do get calls from companies to say, hey, Mick, we need this type of person. And yeah, we need female. And I'm like, why? What's the case? Because we have a target to hit. Okay. But at the same time, there could be someone who's better suited to the role, who could do better in that position for that company. So it's just a tricky one. We've just got to be careful. I think that it's under a company's responsibility, if they have targets, to ensure that those people don't become targets on a project, don't become a target on a site, whereby they will need, not they will need as if they have to, but if they haven't got the qualifications or the experience, but they're being promoted quickly, then they will need nurture. They will need mentorship. They will need a sponsor. They will need nurturing. And if you have that ability to do that, then 100%, it's a great idea. But at the same time, you've just got to play these things right and make sure that we're not just throwing someone into the frying pan and leaving them there to fizzle out. Number 8, tie bonuses to increasing gender diversity. There is nothing like personal greed to change behavior and focus. Well, true. I mean, 100%. I think if you're saying to a construction manager, you know, you're going to get a bonus of 20, 30K if, you know, 10, 15, 20% of your team is female, I mean, of course they're going to do it. And these are the conversations that I'm talking about in salary or in point number 7. I'm getting these calls quite frequently. And overall, I think it will be a good thing in the long run. I just fear sometimes for those individuals who are getting in, you know, being promoted 2 or 3 times quicker than they would have been. So it's something to consider. Again, if you're tying bonuses to it, then things will happen certainly a lot quicker. And number 9, which is my favorite point, is, and finally, keep women in the sporting conversation on a Monday morning. When I was at university, my best friend taught me the rules of every sport. I didn't realize at the time what a lifelong gift he was giving me. I'm not sure he did either. He was just sports mad. I have had many women say to me, men always talk about sport and it's so boring, so I just walk away. The issue is that when the sporting conversations finish, the discussion moves on to work, deals, tactics, and opportunities. And it's at this point that women have left the conversation. They miss out on the informal networking and mentoring, and keeping women in the sporting conversations will ensure they don't miss out on the informal mentoring opportunities. Truthfully, I think this is nearly the best point of all. From a male point of view, I don't really think that men really care about whether you're male or female. I think all that they care about is that you're good enough. And I truthfully think that if you're in a conversation and there's 2 blokes there and you're grabbing a coffee and there's a girl there and you're all just having a chat about the footy the day before, or, you know, basketball or whatever it might be, of course, if you can keep in the conversation and then all of a sudden it turns into, yeah, actually we're talking about this strategy, you know, we're thinking about working on this bid. I mean, that is probably one of the most powerful pieces of advice that you can give anyone, is that if you are in a male-dominated industry, or 85% of them are male, then of course, if you can figure out ways of navigating through that, and whether that's, you know, I mean, talking about sports, you know, talking about things that they're interested in, keeping in the conversation, then of course you're going to have far more opportunity and far more potential for development. You're also probably going to be more likable to those guys. They're probably going to become more friendly to you. They're going to have a more of an interest in sharing information with you. You know, if you, for example, go out for coffee and all the guys are talking about football or whatever it might be, and you're not talking, and then all of a sudden it seems that you're a bit more introverted and you're a bit more shy, and then all of a sudden the guys are a bit more unaware what to do, a bit nervous to be around you. Whereas if you're in the conversation having a bit of crack and a bit of banter and talking about this and talking about that, it doesn't need to be anything too specific. Again, there's just going to feel a bit more natural and a bit more, you know, easier to be around that person. I do believe that in society now, people are afraid to make the wrong comment. I'm doing this right now, aware that if I make a comment here or there, that I could be deemed to be offensive or obtruse, or, you know, being one of those white Anglo-Saxon male point of view, where I understand that I've had opportunity that people don't have, but people are afraid to talk, and there's constantly eggshells around these things. And I think, you know, you look at the vast majority of like networking groups within the construction industry that are female based. I mean, 70-80% of those people who are there are female, and I don't know how beneficial that really is. You know, I think it's beneficial from a community point of view, from a networking point of view, from a support point of view. I think it's super beneficial there. But realistically, we just need to be men. We need to, as men, need to be talking about this from in a bloke way. You know, like when we're not afraid to chat about it. It's like, yeah, I think that we should have more females in the industry, but at the same time, I think that you should be employing the best people for the job. Currently, right now, I think there's something. I spoke to someone during the week where they had mentioned 18% of building contractors are trading insolvent at the moment. So at the same time, we need the best people in construction. We need the best people at the top of construction and executive roles. If I'm genuinely talking about this, what I believe is the biggest issue, it's 1000% a branding thing. So look at it this way. Construction's male orientated, but think of something else that's male orientated that there's been massive change in over the last 10 to 15 years, and that is combat sport. Okay, so if you think about what cage fighting is, it traditionally has been two men walking into a cage and knocking the shit out of each other, right? And has that been an attractive thing for females to do from a sporting point of view? No. But when do things really change, right? And in the UFC, things really changed when Ronda Rousey was the champion, okay? So Ronda Rousey became probably one of the most important people in sports and entertainment in the around about 2015, 2016. She took over the world by storm. She was the female equivalent to Conor McGregor. And if she hadn't have left the UFC, she probably still would be there. And now she's in the WWE. But she changed things. And she changed how women looked at the UFC, how women looked at combat sports in general. And I think of that from the point of view of Dana White. Dana White is a businessman and he's an opportunist. And he's seen someone who was so fucking good, but was so marketable at the same time. And he put her together and he promoted her faster than ever before, where she was headlining events because she had everything to headline events. So I look at it and go, if you're a construction company and you see someone who has the everything, who has that little, spark in their eye, who is highly technically astute, who's a great communicator, who has the potential of leading teams and being a real solid advocate and spokesperson for your business, promote them quicker than ever before. Because as a branding point of view, you will only be what you can see, or I think that's the term. You can only be what you can see. So if you are a 16, 17-year-old female and you're looking at the construction industry, it's not that attractive because most of the people that you see are male. So you're just generally more interested in maybe going into law or IT or whatever it might be. We need to change the face of a construction and what it looks like. And we can't do that from a token point of view of, we're just get a token female on the front cover. No, we need the fucking ones who are the best at what they do. We need more Alison Mirams. We need more of the people who are ready just to take the bull by the horn and show that this is an amazing career. And you will then inspire generations before you to want to do this as well. If we look at boxing, again, boxing is traditionally been two blokes go into a ring and punch the head of each other. Look at Katie Taylor. She is one of Ireland's, darlings. She is one of the true influential sports people in Ireland. If I would say who are the two or three most influential sports people in Ireland, I would think you would say Roy McIlroy, Conor McGregor, and Katie Taylor. Right? Katie Taylor is so inspiring. She has changed boxing forever. Over in a period of time, boxing was illegal for females in Ireland. So she used to literally dress up as a boy in order to fight other boys in competitions. Now she is one of the true stars of boxing. She has paved a legacy for females before or behind her to now come into the sport. If you had gone into gyms in Ireland 15 years ago, you barely see a female there. Now you're going into gyms and seeing it's nearly a third to 50% of newcomers are coming into the gym are female, and that's because of Katie Taylor. And that's not just because Katie Taylor's she's a woman. It's because Katie Taylor's fucking incredible at what she does. She's inspiring. She's so humble. She's just a complete delight of a person. And if I think about some of the best fights that I've seen over the last 2-3 years, I think of Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano at the Madison Square Gardens, 10 rounds, and it was just back to back, and it was just incredible. And I go, you know why men don't care? I know men don't care because I look at the UFC and you probably go into the crowd and that'll be 90% men, and you look at going at the men supporting whether it's Ronda Rousey or Fug Rose or whoever it might be, and they've got all the support for them. And if you look at boxing and you see the men who are now supporting Katie Taylor and Clarissa Shields and Amanda Serrano, it's all about how good you are, and that's the truth. And now you can go, you look at a headline, you look at a boxing event, and six weeks ago there was an event that was all women. All women. It was a pay-per-view event, and 20, 30 years ago that would never have happened. So I believe in, if you're good at what you do, you should be promoted without a doubt. And I believe that if companies can identify the top talent that are female, get them to the top. And I believe that that's the best way of moving the construction industry forward. We need more female to be at the top and to be out there speaking and to be out there as an advocate and branded and marketed. And I don't mean that from like this person's an asset or anything like that, but I'm looking at it going, look at Dana White done with Ronda Rousey, changed mixed martial arts forever. Like literally a completely dominant industry from the point of view of male participation. Same with boxing and what Eddie Hearn has done with Matchroom and females. And I go 6, 7, 8 years ago, you could ask me a female boxer, and I'm going, I think Muhammad Ali has a niece or something like that. Now I could at least name 4 or 5. And again, give it another 5, 10 years, and I'll probably be 10 or 15 people that I know. So again, it's all about getting the best people and getting them out there. And I think that's how you'll change things. My opinion, there are also structural things where Alison has mentioned within this document, like getting sponsorships and promoting at this time and offering salaries at this time, et cetera, et cetera. I think that does work to a certain extent, but I think the main part of it is a branding issue. It is about getting more females out there, inspiring other females to want to come into the industry. If we look at another industry that's quite similar to construction, and it is the number 1 industry in Australia, and that's healthcare, right? You could say, well, there's the point of view of we need more males to be in healthcare, because there's 75% of healthcare participation is female, and there's only 25% are male. And I don't generally hear the same conversation that we have around construction, getting more females into construction, as that conversation of getting more males into healthcare. So from the point of view, I've done some research on this yesterday, and within healthcare, there's 166,000 males working in the healthcare industry in Australia. That's represented 25% of the total healthcare workforce. There are 43,000 registered male nurses, 36,000 male physicians, 23,000 medical health service managers, 7,000 dentists, and 6,000 pharmacists. Again, it's an interesting conversation though, isn't it? That there isn't the same conversation around male participation in healthcare, but we're having this big conversation around female participation in construction. So, in my opinion, you go, I don't know why that is. It's interesting. However, I'm looking at it from the talent point of view, and I'm looking at it from the point of view of where the construction industry is right now. If we have 18% of construction companies are potentially trading insolvent right now, shows that we're not doing something right. So I believe we can only benefit from having a different point of view, from having a different experience, from having people who, I mean, I'm completely stereotyping here, so I'll probably get cancelled, but I'm just going to say it. I mean, I think that from the female point of view, that you're going to have someone who's probably more diligent, more articulate, in many ways, going to have look at the detail a lot more than men who, if you look, I look at my family, and I've got a niece and a nephew, and I spent a good bit of time with them when I was back in Ireland, and it was hilarious. I had Killian, the boy, and I had Aoife, the girl. And Aoife is, extremely diligent. She's smart. She's, very thoughtful. And then I look at Killian, and he's out bashing bricks off a tree. So if I'm like completely stereotyping, and I'm just thinking it can only be beneficial that we bring more female in the industry to help solve some of these problems that we're having. Insolvencies, we're having massive supply chain issues. We're having issues around mental health. And, you know, there's the reason why I brought the healthcare topic into this topic is because there's a lot of people who talk about, oh, we need to have better working hours for women in construction. That's why there's not enough construction, not enough females in construction. I'm like, well, that's complete bullshit, because 75% of women are in the healthcare industry, and they're not getting working from home, and they're not getting like flexible working hours. So I don't believe that is accurate. I believe that it's, you look at a 15, 16-year-old and you say, what do you want to be? And I think females will probably go towards law or healthcare or to some extent finance or IT or something like that, but generally just won't go construction because it seemed to be a male thing. So I see that as a storytelling issue. I see that as being a branding issue. I think that we could just do so much more than advocating the women that we've got in the industry, and start telling the stories more, start inspiring the other ones to come through. I see there's a couple of females on LinkedIn, and they do like a genuinely better job of branding themselves than males will ever do. And I'm like, well, if we can utilize that skill set from a branding point of view, a design point of view, from that thoughtful marketing point of view, then let's do it. Let's really push it hard. If you've got a female in your team in a construction business and she is interested in marketing from the point of view of showing around site and doing whatever you might be doing these days from Instagram and TikTok and all that sort of stuff, let her do it, because that's going to allow more females coming in the industry. Her network is going to probably be predominantly female. They're going to be inspired to see that, oh, you know, such and such, my friends, whether it's Ella's doing this, Susan's doing this, Bianca's doing this, I'm actually interested in doing that myself. And so that's how things change, is by a brand, by a face. You know, I was thinking about this morning, and went, what was rock and roll like before Madonna? You know, what was rap like before Nicki Minaj? You know, now there's friggin' loads of females in rap, and there's loads of, you know, different musicians within rock and roll. Or, you know, you look at Taylor Swift, you know, what was country music before Taylor Swift? So everything needs that one person who breaks the stereotype and takes the shackles off. And of course, there's all these different things that we can do, but generally speaking, we need men to buy into that. We need the 85% of the construction industry to buy into that. I don't really think men really think about it, to be honest. They just think about waking up every day. They think about their family. They think about their wife, and, you know, and they think about the work that they've got to do that day and whatever's important to them. They're not really thinking about diversity that much. I think that we go set a target and go, the target is, I want to see as many females in your team promoting themselves as possible. They want them to be at events. I want them to be pushing the agenda. I want them to be talking about it, but then I want men to be actually involved in it as well, because that's the only way it changes, is when men embrace it. Because let's face it, if the 85% don't embrace it, then what's the point? So yeah, this has been a good conversation. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this as well. Topics to relate to. Again, we're in a time right now where it's hard for people to talk, whether you're a man, whether you're female. There's an era of cancellation. There's an era of, you know, standing on eggshells and worrying about what's next, what you can say, what you can't say. I believe we've just got to open conversation, talk about things, and get shit moving. And who cares what the hell happens? That's someone else's agenda. If you are a good person, you've got the right morals, and you have the right agenda, that's all that matters. So if you've got any questions to reach out, and if you want me to answer them, please do so. Next week we'll be putting out some interviews with those within the industry, which is really exciting. And then you never know, we might have the big man Patrick back in again. But have a great week, folks, and enjoy.